Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome.
Hey, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes as we see some people coming through here. Still logging in. Oh, okay. I think we are good to go. All right. Yeah, well, thank you everyone for logging in. It looks like we got one more person coming in here. And great. So welcome to TLC's monthly webinars. This is on computer refurbishing and distribution. If you have not participated with us before, I thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. But it looks like we have a lot of familiar names here today, so I think we have a pretty friendly crowd here. We're always friendly, but you know. Just a heads up as well, this will be our last webinar for the summer, so we'll probably resume back in September, I believe is what our plans are for the moment. So we're going to take the summer off, give everyone a little bit of a break, including ourselves, and recuperate, and we'll come back in September for the monthly webinars as well. Yeah, I just also want to thank Comcast for helping sponsor the webinars as well. As you know, Comcast has been very generous to TLC in the past, and we appreciate their sponsorship as well for this. They're supporting us and getting us up and running as a nonprofit, as well as supporting these webinars in general. So thank you so much to their support. If you want to read more about TLC, if you've not read about us here, you can visit us at tlcphilly.org. We are in our 9th year at the moment, heading towards 10. And you can go to tlcphilly.org and also join our webinar, our email list as well. So, and look for changes on the email list now, as we actually have control of our domain. So we're actually going to be changing out our email list probably fairly soon as well. And you'll be contacted about that too. All right, so let's get going. So our speakers today are, many of you know me, I'm Andy Stutzman from Drexel University, the project director for civic technology there, as well as the chair for Technology Learning Collaborative. And I also want to thank Kate, before I forget, Kate Rivera from Kate Rivera Solutions. She's the consultant that has been helping TLC organize these things, as well as do the work of becoming a nonprofit. So thank you, Kate, for organizing all of this. We also have Juliet Fink-Yates from the city of Philadelphia, the Office of Innovation and Technology, Jonathan Latko from Temple University, Information Technology Services, and Jasmine Morton Thompson from Nerd It Now Foundation as well. And a Drexel grad, I believe, too, which is great. So, yeah, so thank you so much. The reason we're talking about this computer distribution is it's just a very important topic. We can go to the next slide here. Yeah, and I'm going to start off this conversation first with the digital navigators. The computer distribution in general has gone on in Philly for quite a while, for many years now, but using the role of the digital navigator programs throughout the city, which there are 6 of us right now. We've been focusing on assisting individuals in getting internet access, as well as answering technical questions, helping refer them to digital literacy courses. But one of the key components and priorities for the digital navigator programs has been distributing equipment as well. And through this, some of us receive funds to actually purchase equipment like Chromebooks or tablets and distribute those. But we've also been working through multiple nonprofits as well to get computers, refurbished computers, and then distribute them out to different various programs and the communities associated with our organizations. And for Drexel myself, modeling off what Jonathan is going to be talking to you about at Temple, what he's been doing, we have our own small computer recycling program as well. So we've been using some of the computers that were left over from for when Hahnemann Hospital closed. We have a large assortment of computers left over from that. So we've been working on distributing those out as well through our programs. But one of the big things, as we've noticed, as we've been taking phone calls in over the last year now through the digital navigator programs, is, it was internet. People were calling about internet needs, and we still do get those calls, but through some of our most recent conversations with all the organizations, it really seems to be the computer needs are the number one call we're getting right now. People are still calling about needing computers. So this topic is just so timely and important. And we're going to kick this off. I just wanted to kind of add this precursor here, and I wanted to kick this off, and then with Juliet talking about how the city is out with the digital navigator programs, how the city has formed a program to help with this as well. So Juliet, I'll let you kick it off.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thanks, Andy, for giving me some time to talk about this. I'll kind of go through these slides pretty quickly and then let the refurbishers talk about the brilliant work that they do. But, the city has known that there is a huge need for devices. And so one of the ways in which the city attempted to get more devices into people's hands was a campaign that we called PHL Donate Tech, which was a city initiative, and still is a city initiative, that calls on residents and businesses to donate, recycle, and provide computers to families and people in need across Philadelphia. So I'll talk a little bit about that project and then hand it off to some of the partners that we actually are working with. So if you could go to the next slide. Yep. So I just to kind of set the stage here for you all, this is based on 2019 American Community Survey data. So this is data that was collected in 2019. So it's about a year and a half old at this point. It's estimated that 11.5% of Philadelphia residents don't have any access to a working computer at all. And what we've learned through this pandemic is that in many instances, so the entire school district and the charter sector and many other schools distributed Chromebooks and other laptops to kids to help them work remotely. But that didn't necessarily solve the problem of who needed access during the pandemic. So we know that parents were using their kids' computers to do their own work that they desperately needed to do, to look for jobs or to, do their remote work if their companies didn't provide their computer for them. As Andy said, computers are the #1 requested need based on our digital navigator data that we collected. We received many phone calls from the adult education and workforce providers who are really struggling to find computers for their students or their CareerLink folks who were signed up for CareerLink. We heard over and over again that seniors in particular and medically fragile populations, often many of whom are at home and can't easily get out, need computers to access their telehealth visits. They needed it to access vaccine sign up and reduce isolation. And we also heard over this pandemic that, arts and community organizations couldn't, as they switched to remote programs as well, that they couldn't reach the communities in which they were serving because they didn't have computers in their homes either. And so we heard over and over again this story. If you want to go to the next slide. So the idea was really that we wanted to leverage the platform of the city to make sure that individuals, nonprofits, corporations could donate used equipment that they did not need anymore. That equipment could be easily picked up by a recycler or refurbisher partners, and that any usable equipment, or any, I should say, non-usable equipment, because not everything should go back out to the public. We only wanted to put out equipment that was in good shape, could get recycled responsibly. That we wanted to make sure that the computers could be wiped, that the data protected, and that they potentially could get refurbished, maybe by workforce training participants, but that they could get refurbished and get put back into the community. And then we wanted to, many of our refurbishers partnered with different nonprofits. So the equipment that they refurbished could go to nonprofit partners who then could distribute the computers directly to those who needed them. And so we really wanted to create this sort of zero waste process for recycling and redistributing equipment. And so what we did, if you go to the next slide, this is sort of how the campaign works. So when you go to PHL Donate Tech, it will show you that if you are an individual or you have, a small number of computers, 25 or fewer, we partnered with a company called Retriever, which has a simple online form that you can fill out, and it'll come to your home or your small business, and we'll pick up your equipment for free. We are working with them in Philadelphia to make sure that the pickups, if you are donating laptops or desktops, will be free pickups. They also happen to pick up used clothing. So you can do that in one fell swoop as well, if you want to. And they sustainably recycle everything that they pick up. And they worked out with our partner NerdIt Foundation to sort of a way for NerdIt to come and look at the computers that are able to be refurbished, and they took those computers to be refurbished, and then they refurbished that equipment and they hand them off to the digital Navigator organizations and other nonprofits who then can directly pass that equipment on to the household. Similarly, so one way of getting equipment donated is every one of you who has a computer that you don't need anymore can go right through Retriever to do that. For those of you who are in a nonprofit or a company, or you have more than 25 computers, we partnered with Electronic Access Foundation, who can pick up these larger quantities. And they also certify, wipe data from the computers and refurbish the equipment. And then they collaborate with Temple's Recycling Center, Computer Recycling Center, to refurbish the equipment and get it back. Same process, get it back to either a digital Navigator org or another Philadelphia nonprofit they partner with, who can directly provide the equipment to the household. And lastly, we knew that we needed to create some sort of sustainable way to continue to support our refurbisher community in Philadelphia. And so we set up a device fund at the Mayor's Fund in the city of Philadelphia. And that device fund can hold funds and donations, either corporate campaign donations, corporate giving campaigns, or individual donations. So if you don't have any equipment, you can actually directly donate to the fund. It will be held there, and it can be only used to put back to our refurbisher partners to continue to fund their work, or to provide small grants through the Digital Literacy Alliance, which is an entity within the city of Philadelphia that distributes funds around digital equity and digital literacy work. And so we set up these sort of three pathways to get to bring in equipment and get it back to people who need it. The one thing that I would say too around is that the goal is for devices to go to individuals. So many of our partners have often provided equipment in bulk for computer labs, things like that. And while that is still incredibly valuable, in the pandemic, what we really realized that people needed was equipment in their homes. And so this campaign is really trying to get the equipment directly to individuals to use either in their homes or wherever they are living or staying. Next slide. So we also identified a handful of priority populations that we really wanted to make sure equipment could get distributed to. So our seniors, we knew that this was a high need group. Veterans, those who may be homeless or housing insecure, those, as I mentioned, who are medically fragile, who may be homebound, Anyone who's enrolled in adult learning programs, so that includes adult basic education, GED, ESL programs, workforce training students, if they're enrolled in a workforce training program, the 18 to 24-year-olds who themselves may be enrolled in educational programs. We know that this is a group that often has high needs and may not have the resources or family support that they might need to get a computer. Our immigrant communities, small business owners, Black and Latinx households, LGBTQ populations, people with disabilities, and of course, folks who are serving low-income residents generally. So if you are a nonprofit and you serve any of these folks, you can partner with the refurbishers and get equipment. Next slide. So I have 3 months of data. So we started the campaign in December of 2020. And so in that small amount of time, we were able to pick up 1,000 devices. 250 were directly provided to residents. So they were refurbished and then handed back into the community. And this is actually a pretty good, I think, percentage of devices picked up versus redistributed. We know that we know that not every device that is picked up is going to be usable. And so we want to make sure that no devices go back into the community that are too old or not internet enabled. And so we do have all the refurbishers have certain standards that they adhere to before they are going to put a device back into the hands of the community. Next slide. So how can somebody get a device if they need it? So we encourage folks, if it's an individual resident, to contact the digital navigators themselves, who are helping to distribute the equipment. We encourage them to contact digital navigators because they're experienced at fielding phone calls and sort of helping assess what the issue is and finding the best solution for that particular person, whether it's getting a device or getting an internet connection. We are also working with a national organization called Digitunity, which used to be the National Christina Foundation. Digitunity has a database that you can register as a nonprofit to receive equipment. And then if you are a refurbisher across the country, you can register as a refurbisher and they help match a refurbisher to your need. So our local refurbishers are all in Digitunity, who are partnered with us. And so they can match to your organization and make sure that you're a good fit for getting equipment to you. The only other thing that I would say, there's lots of information on page Donate Tech, and I put the link there, is that it does take time to refurbish. And so sometimes what we've found is that, and it takes time to get the equipment in. And so one of the challenges has been that we really, we may not have the equipment that you need right away. And so getting in touch and letting folks know that you need it, they've often put folks on a list, and then they can, they'll get back to you when the equipment comes in. So it might be a few weeks, it might be a month, but the digital navigators will have a list where they can get you the equipment if you've called in and asked for some support there. Questions?
It looks like Bob has asked a question, as well as other sites where people can actually go and donate equipment directly.
Yeah, so Bob, they don't, we haven't set up any specific sites where they can bring equipment. We've sort of discussed that, and I think we have some potential plans in the future, but we really felt like the simplest thing for folks to do, and they can get help doing this, is to have retriever individuals just come pick them up. When you fill out their form, they can directly come to your own home, so you don't have to carry or move anything. And then for bulk donations, no, there's no age limits because it can all be recycled. And so they can you can do a bulk donation of things that are too old. Half the goal is the sustainability goal. And so I think it's equally as important to get the older equipment sustainably recycled. 15-inch LCDs desirable. So I think are for bulk or individuals, I would say that donate, and our partners like NERDIT or EAF will help determine whether or not it's a desirable piece of equipment. Stephen, you are asking, of course, great questions, because you are like 100% in this field. And so we leave it to the campaign amplifies what the refurbishers are already doing, and each of them do things a little bit differently. And so I think this is a great moment where I'm going to hand it off to the other members of this, this webinar to talk about what they do and sort of what operating system they might use, and what the equipment and how they refurbish it. Does that make sense, Andy?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jonathan, I believe you're up next.
Okay, so my name's Jonathan Lack. I work at Temple University. I've met many of you before. I'll talk a little bit about our journey first, and then I might try to show you my team folder here on what we're planning to do and what we've been doing for the past year. But Temple University has existed in North Philadelphia for a very long time. I've been at Temple 21 plus years. And about 2003, we were very similar path that the city had talked about. We looked at it from a sort of a waste stream, zero waste kind of idea in the beginning. And we were told by the state we couldn't throw away CRT monitors and computers. And so that forced us to look at that waste stream of electronics. And that's about the time that I got involved in the project. And I saw them as assets. So I looked at different ways that we could reuse those computers. So we spent a lot of time, basically from 2003 all the way until 2020, the beginning of 2020, figuring out what to do. Individually, we refurbished and sold computers to students, faculty, and staff. But in the community, through Temple Tech for Philly, we set up computer labs throughout Philadelphia. And we felt that was most important to do it in that way. People wanted individual machines, but the tech support was a problem. The machine itself was basically free, a little bit of labor to fix it up. But that Geek Squad was $75 an hour, or if the person didn't have digital literacy to fix that computer, keep it going, that was the barrier to entry. So we really focused on computer labs, where if one computer of 15 or 20 didn't work, you had time to fix it, or you just move along to the next one. And so that we put all our resources into that for a very long time, and felt like we had a really good result from that. So that was churches, nonprofits, schools, community centers. We really left the individual donations up to what Steve was connected to, NTR, which I thought was a really good organization that exists in the Philly for a very long time, for taking those corporate donations and doing that individual refurbishment piece for a very long time. I don't think that exists any longer. So there was a gap, I think, in the Philadelphia market for a while. Now, when COVID hit, we were ramping up within 2 weeks before we knew or didn't know we were going to leave campus, and prepping machines, desktops to go out to students, and thinking that they were going to need those on the way out the door because we were about to shut campus down. We gathered about 300 laptops from across campus that were all in different departments. He gave those out within a few days. We thought we had 2 weeks. We only had about 3 days. So we gave all those out. And by the time we went through those, nobody was left on campus. And I was sitting on 2 pallets of computers, about 50 each, that were ready to roll. And typically we would sell those to students really cheap, about $25 a piece, or we set up donations, but there was nothing to go to. And, as we were kind of sitting around looking, we realized that our old model of doing computer labs wasn't going to work in this world. People could not visit spaces, right? We couldn't be next to each other. But then there was the challenges of like the things that we thought people could do when I go and visit the library or visit computer labs, they weren't able to do anymore. So we really had to kind of have a reckoning and rethink what you were doing and why. So let me see if I can pull up my team here. Give me 1 second. Share. All right, we'll see how, is that big enough for people to see? So what you should see is my North Philadelphia Digital Navigators long title. You can't see. And so as we were sitting at home, we were trying to figure out how do we make those connections, and we can't be everything to everyone. So a big piece of what we did was contact people that had relationships in the community already. So at Temple University, we have something called the North Philly LendFest Workforce Development Initiative. So I reached out to Shirley Moy and I said, look, I have these computers ready to go, but I can't deliver them to people, and I don't have the relationships to the people in the community to make that happen. What can we do? So she reached out to some of her strong partners, Norris Homes, ASE, and a few others, and said, we basically asked them to do surveys. And this was about a month into the pandemic. And we said, you know, how many of you have children at home? Do you have a computer that you got from the school? And do you not have a computer? What's your internet connection? So basic questions. And then we took that data, and from 3 organizations, we took the top 15 families that had need, that didn't have a PC at home. And I said to each of those, through the partners, go back to them and help them get Comcast internet connection for free for 2 months. It's going to take a couple weeks to get it there, but get that set up. And by the time that's done, we'll figure out a logistical way to get the computer from our warehouse out to them in some way. And so we leveraged all our partners, and basically I got them to Norris Homes. Shirley and team set up a situation where they did a call back, and people set up appointments and they came and picked them up. Some of the partners went and dropped them off on their doorsteps. And so by the time machines got there a couple of weeks later, they had the internet Comcast Essentials ready to roll. They plugged the machine in. We didn't have people to go to the house to set them up. So we created all this documentation with pictures to train people on what things were called and what plugged into each other. And then we set up a Google number similar to Digital Navigators, which at that time wasn't set up, for them to call back, leave a message, and we can call them back up to say, this is what you need, or this is what part you're missing. We got about 100 machines out within a couple months into the community in homes that didn't have internet or a computer before. And so then we sat back and we were like, all right, what are we missing? You know, this is a silver lining time where we can really figure out, how do we solve this challenge that existed for a very long time, the digital divide. So what I'm sharing on the screen here is this working document that we looked at, and through the National Digital Literacy Alliance, they define different things. So digital equity is a pretty big deal. And what we were figuring out were that people could not participate in society. They couldn't sign up for unemployment benefits. They couldn't get what they needed. They couldn't find out where resources were. They couldn't communicate with their teachers, right? They couldn't look for employment or train. So that digital equity is really the end game here for us. We talk about digital divide for a long time, and that's getting people the resources they need. But digital equity is sort of like the goal of society, right? How do you become a participant in democracy, in society, in the economy in the 21st century? So we took that and then looked deeper and said, all right, well, in order to have digital equity, you need to have digital inclusion. So there's these 5 elements of digital inclusion. Do you have an internet connection? Do you have a device that you can plug that into? Do you have any training that you know how to use that device? Do you have tech support for that device? And then can you do the greater things, develop content yourself, or go get a job and things like that? How do you collaborate with others? And we took that digital inclusion piece and said, all right, what can we do at Temple University and our partners to fill this gap? What pieces exist already? What pieces are missing? And so by this time, we were having a lot of conversations across the city with digital navigators as that was being developed, with the TLC, with the Digital Literacy Alliance, and all these different groups are trying to figure out how do we help these things. And so what we did was sort of come up with this goal, this overarching goal, from Temple's lens, leverage our partners and the expertise within Temple University, use that capacity to assist in digital equity by addressing that in North Philadelphia, and then synergizing and bolstering our existing resources to help build out a tech support network that will parallel as a workforce development, right? So that's what we're trying to do. Can we build out the support network in North Philadelphia and beyond, using people from the community to learn digital skills, to be that workforce that can help support that equipment we put into the community. So on this call right now, Sean Mitchell, if you want to wave your hand. He was a Temple student from West Philadelphia, graduated from Temple. He worked for me in the Computer Recycling Center. We did this for about 15 years. Sean was with our team probably 4 or 5 years. He was doing other work at this time, and we hired him to be our lead. We're trying to build a mini computer recycling center at the Norris Homes Community Center in North Philadelphia. So if anybody knows about Norris Homes, it was a government project from years back that's been rebuilt through the Choice neighborhood. Temple put a lot of resources into it. They knocked everything down except for the community center. And so now we are, through the Lenfest Foundation, renting that space to be in the community and build out this digital literacy center to solve all these problems of digital inclusion. So the big piece that we're able to do from the recycling center is take our Temple Tech for Philly and build a piece of it within the Norris Homes and refurbish computers. So we built up a KVM switch. We're collecting computers through EAF, and Juliet had talked about the Philly Donate Tech campaign. We're a part of that. We won a few $1,000s in that grant. We're basically using those resources to take desktops, which are primary what we get, to buy more RAM, to buy headsets, to buy cameras, and buy speakers, so they can become a digitally remote PC and ready to roll. Otherwise, that computer cannot do everything we need to do. So we specifically spent the money on that. Sean's funding came through the Chubb Center for Urban Bioethics. They do health in North Philadelphia outside of Temple Hospital. Dr. Reeves is an amazing doctor, does amazing things with trauma in North Philadelphia. And we pitched our idea to her. And so she funded about a year of Sean's salary. And then we went back with the Lenfest Foundation to potentially fund the second year. And so we're trying to cobble together resources because I need somebody to run this on the ground. And Sean was probably a great pick for us. So what we're trying to do is take each of these 5 pieces and figure out what we can do and where we're missing, and what can we do to move forward. So that internet service was one of the big pieces. Comcast Internet Essentials was a big part of that solution. There's many other solutions that are out there now that the government has $50 a month for broadband. That was a big missing piece, but that's short term. That's only for a couple of years or until funding runs out. We're working on a more granular grassroots project called Philly Community Wireless with a partnership with Philly Whisper. Can we provide broadband, or not broadband, can we provide Wi-Fi in North Philadelphia and beyond through other networks that are open and public accessible? We know Philadelphia tried that years ago and wasn't very successful through projects that they were working on. So, it's another attempt at that. FiOS has different pieces, and so we build out this partnership in different ways. So we partner with Comcast to build a very similar process that they've done with the school district, where they've handed out codes for Internet Essentials to people within their programs that are at need. So we became a partner there, and we're using some of those resources. Internet-enabled devices. So the CRC had done this for a very long time using Temple equipment, but now we're using some Temple equipment and some from the Philly Donate Tech from EAF. We have pent-up machines. We've been spending probably how many months now, Sean? Like 5 since Sean came on in February to basically build the site out. Everything from getting the grass cut to get internet connections in there, and we're working with Comcast as a partnership on there for Philly Lift Zone and some other pieces. And so we're hoping by July that everything is set up and we can start full boat refurbishing. We already started doing some this month. We probably have 200 or 300 machines and pent up ready to go that we're going to start refurbishing. We're partnering with other organizations for digital literacy. So we have Passive from Temple University. You're going to start doing digital literacy courses in the same space. We're going to have people earn this equipment, not just give it out willy-nilly. So they're going to go through a little course of learning about the hardware, how to plug it in and how to make it work, how do you get up internet and communicate, how to use the operating system, and then ultimately, how do you get into workforce development programs? So that's one piece of it that we're working on. Another one is through the distribution that Juliet talked about, working with our workforce development programs in North Philadelphia, and they are the conduit that works with the community members. So anybody within their programs that have a need, we would funnel computers through those programs to make sure they got them so they could do this remote education, not in a computer lab, but from their home. The technical support is a big piece we're trying to figure out. I'm meeting with Andy in July. The digital navigators is the tip of the iceberg of that. And how do we get people support for this equipment, right? What are models that we can come up with to keep that equipment running so that that's not the burden or the barrier to entry? So a big piece of it is digital navigators, getting them the technology, getting them online, and all those types of things. The second piece is, do we create a hardware exchange where your PC is agnostic? You turn it in when it doesn't work, and you get another one in its place, and everything's clouded. So we're working on that model next, and we're hoping to get that up and running with the help of the Digital Navigator Network. And then phase 3, and that would be mainly supporting the equipment we give out. And then phase 3 would be a broader technology support. How do we support things that maybe we don't do? But that entire support network would be workforce development. So Sean is our trainer and trainee right now. He works at our help desk 2 days a week and then runs the center 3 days a week. We're bringing on partnerships from E3, other workforce development programs that want to get into technology to help learn to basically refurb these and be the support, and then help build their digital skills so they can get into the technology fields to support these things or create their own career path. And then the last piece is the applications and content. So continuing to work with our partners to get to the workforce development, to get to Career Link, to learn and get these certifications that you need in the workforce to make these things happen, to build out a resume. So we're really looking at a comprehensive approach. It's taking time to build out, longer than I would ever imagine. Obviously we've been doing this for years, but Juliet provided us some funding, and I've given out maybe 7 computers so far, but we're ready to get rolling soon. And we think we can ramp this up. So really what we're looking for now is Sean will put his email into the chat. For anybody who's interested in this space, we're looking to maybe meet later in July to just see the Norris Homes community space that we're building out, and then just kind of brainstorm and talk about other resources that are available that we can synergize with. I'll be meeting with Andy early in July. He's going to be a big partner in this, but we really want to create a digital equity center in North Philadelphia to build it out, and then build nodes of these across the city eventually, and really work with the city to build out this network and make it tangible. That's the short of it. There's a lot happening, a lot of partnerships. It doesn't happen on our own. TLC is a big part of this. This is where I met all the people that I'm networking with. So if anybody has any questions or thoughts, Kate, if you want to throw your slide back up, that's fine. I'm willing to have that conversation now.
All right, any questions directly for Temple? So Steven's asking, do you have a good source for inexpensive and reliable webcams, Mike?
Yeah, so for the longest time, there was nothing available because of supply chain. But we are working with like B&H and some of our sourcing. We're trying to use our purchasing power as a university to buy in bulk. We have some success at that. Sometimes we find on Amazon cheaper, but you never know where you're going to get. Yeah. So it's a hodgepodge right now. We did B&H and we did Amazon so far. They're our main 2. But if you have a resource and you can share that, you have ideas, let us know.
Yeah, typically I think I've purchased in, sets of 20 to 50 sometimes, and
Right.
usually it's between $20 to $25. You can get a decent something off Amazon,
Yeah, we were for that entire package. So a Wi-Fi adapter, because they need to be most cases Wi-Fi if the machine's far away, a camera, a headset, and maybe some RAM. We were about $80 all in for those pieces, based on some of our sourcing, and the prices kind of ebbed and flowed.
That's great. Well, thank you, Jonathan. So we're getting short on time. I think we're going to move right on to Nerd It now, but please place questions in the chat and we'll try and get to those at the end if you have those. So we have with us today, we have Jasmine from Nerd It Now Foundation, and Nerd It Cares, I believe. Jasmine, you'll have to explain what all the different things are. But they've been a great partner with Philadelphia. Just tremendous the amount of work that they've put into this as well to assist us, especially the Digital Navigator programs and getting computers out there. So Jasmine, I will hand it off to you.
Yes, so Marquivas has joined me. We're just going to share.
Marquivas.
Yeah, he's right next to me.
We're going to start back a little bit with the history of the Nerd It ecosystem as well. When a lot of people see Nerd It Now today, or Nerd It Cares, Nerd It Foundation, A lot of people see Shark Tank, Shark Tank, Shark Tank. Oh, we saw you there. And we try to share with our communities that we're so much more than just a Shark Tank. For here, we like to build in what we call the circle of life between the Nerded Now store, the Nerded Foundation, which we're now changing the name to Nerded Cares, the Nerded Kiosk, which is giving help desk support technician out into the communities for free. We have our ambulances. We're now the first certified recycler for IT equipment in the state of Delaware, and we're doing a whole lot. We're kind of like the new kids on the block. And if you would really think about it, people seen us starting 5 years ago, but it started with one computer being donated to me at 12 years old, which would change the whole trajectory of my life. Little kid from the hood, getting that one computer set me off to high school to become a Microsoft certified systems engineer by 17. I went to college, got an accounting degree, computer science degree, lived in China for 5 years to come back and see that there's still a big, back then I called it the tech divide. Well, now we're gonna call it the digital divide. But it's so much more than just the digital divide. Here at Nerded Now, we're focused on closing 3 different divides. The digital income wealth divide. What that looks like is with the digital divide, we donate technology and uptrain underserved individuals from communities how to actually get into this space, gaining employable skills within technology. After we close the digital divide, we want to close the income divide. Now, if you can get the skills that are employable to work outside of Nerded Now, oh, happy day, you won. That's a win for you and a win for us. For our long-term goal is for you to stay actually internally with Nerded Now, to get the skills, not only to become a technician or a manager, but one day open up your own Nerded Now. Go into a new community. We'll give it to you, not asking you to pay, but start that circle of life all over again. Go into a new community. Donate technology, train people how to get the skills, offer jobs, and then offer them the opportunity to open up their own franchise. When we started back in a 2-bedroom apartment back in 2015, to now, our goal was always to donate 100 computers each year into underserved communities. So from 2015 to 2019, we donated roughly 538 computers back into underserved communities, primarily to families. Last year, well over 5,000 computers back into underserved communities. This year, we're peaking at roughly 3,000 so far as we're halfway through the year right now. And we're unrelentless. We're just like, we're gonna give, because again, if that one computer could change our life, what could thousands do back into other lives? And we've been blessed to be able to partner with this program with other financial institutions, just partnering to be able to help increase our gifts so much more than we could have ever fathomed. And we're just so blessed and thankful for that. So as we're expanding throughout the Delaware region, Maryland region, we're also heavily pushing within Philadelphia. And Jasmine can share a lot of the initiatives that we're actually already working on here in Philadelphia.
So I met Marquise about 3 or 4 years ago. Our common goal was kind of off of the foundation aspect. I came in and I was like, oh, you want to donate 100 computers? Let's donate more than 100 computers. But if we're going to donate in Delaware, we got to donate in Philly. That was our agreement from the start. So as we started ramping up in Delaware, we would donate to a bunch of schools, individuals, other nonprofit organizations, homeless shelters. We would build computer labs. And then finally, what rolled around was the pandemic, which kind of projected us to come into Philly. And we started in Philly with donating to a program that was also a workforce development program. And we gave them 100 computers for their nursing students to be able to take classes online and graduate for the year. From there, we started to talk to Retriever, and they were saying, you know, we got a bunch of pilots. If you guys want to refurbish those, donate back out into the community. And then we became connected with Juliet, who also started the initiative for Philly. And they had more things for us to get donations and get technology and equipment. Along with her, we partnered with the West Philadelphia Corridor, who they partnered with us with AT&T, and we were able to spend 2 days in Philadelphia where on site in our ambulance, we fixed devices all day, probably more than 100 devices, 2 techs, just people walking up with cell phones, iPads, tablets, desktops. If we couldn't fix it, we replaced it. And then from there, we also, during the pandemic, when the businesses in West Philly got ransacked, they needed help with a bunch of their insurance and legal practices. So with Jabari from the West Philadelphia Corridor, we partnered and created a tech lab for the like a temporary tech lab where all of the business owners could go into the tech lab and kind of virtual call all of these people who volunteered to give them help with their insurance and all of that information to get their businesses back up and running after all that stuff had happened. So since then, I would say we're probably over a good 1,000 computers in Philly. And we're still going. We have other events planned to come and bring the trucks back out. We did one time, 2 days before Christmas, we, which it sounds crazy. It was Christmas. It was very random, but someone decided that we should do a school tour. And it was a few students who didn't have laptops from the school district. So we said, okay, we got 50 Chromebooks that we can give out. So we took the ambulance and drove through the streets of Philadelphia, which I know everyone knows the streets of Philadelphia is not accommodating to anything big. But we drove through the streets and we hit house to house and gave the kids their Chromebooks. So our whole initiative and idea is to basically uptrain people that come with us, get them to learn how to break fix, get them to be able to give back to the community just as much as we give back to the community, and kind of take in any devices. If people don't want it, we don't care. We still take it in because at the end of the day, we know that there's a piece, a part, anything on that device that we could put on another device to make that device work for up to 3 years. And that's kind of where we're at with everything here at Nerded Now. And yes, I am a Drexel alumni.
So we're crazy nerds over here, but at the end of the day, we give back to the community, which has given so much to us. And we're relentless. We're going to continue pushing until
We can't quite hear you, Marquivas. Can you?
Yeah, I said over here at Nerded Now, we're crazy nerds, yes. But between our foundation, between the for-profit, everything is all about giving back to the community, which has given so much to us. So I'll be unrelentless and always giving back and make sure we're creating more opportunity for someone else somewhere else to also start that whole cycle all over again. That's how our little mindset works when it comes to really closing this digital divide intentionally.
That's great. That's great. I put in the chat just an image for people to see for when you all came into West Philly, and a lot of the digital navigator programs came over and picked up computers. It was great. Yeah, seeing the ambulance there and all the equipment there it was just great and helped us out so much. Yes, we appreciate that. And Jasmine, can you talk about the work you're doing with Drexel right now with the alumni too?
Yes. So me and Jabari both graduated. Jabari, we started Drexel at the same time. He graduated a year before me. Since then, we've been like longtime friends. He started the West Philadelphia corridor, so this is where our connection come in at. And since we've been connected, the idea was to get all of Drexel alumni, any students or faculty, and have them basically donate any equipment that they have just sitting around or that they don't need or don't want. And Drexel pays for all of it to be mailed into us. We have because Jabari runs the West Philadelphia corridor, so a bunch of his businesses along the corridor decided that they could be drop-off points. So we set up these nerded recycling bins where they can drop off all of their devices. And then we also have some partners who he partnered with where we just go and pick up some devices. And we are taking all of those, and at the end of August, beginning of September, we're going to do a back to school donation tech event thanks to Drexel and the West Philadelphia corridor and the fixes from Nerded Now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and Jabari Jones, he was also a co-op of ours at the Excite Center, so that's great to see see all this come around. So thank you guys so much for this. I hope that if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat. We still have a few minutes left here, and I hope that we have kind of shown the full circle here of what's been happening in Philadelphia since even before the digital navigator programs took off, as the pandemic was there, and even before that, things that were going on. Just to chat real quick about other resources that are out there. There are a couple of things. One, just to make note of, is someone else that's doing some great work out there is the Philadelphia Children's Foundation, which is a nonprofit that actually goes into schools, teaches kids how how to actually refurbish computers, and then it gives the computers back out to the kids there as well, I believe. So they've been doing some great work over the last couple of years. There's PAR Recycle Works, PCs for People, and Human IT, which do a variety of work besides just computers. They have low-cost refurbished computers. I know that they also, some of them, like Human IT, also do the low-cost internet access as well. So there's some great works, great. Yeah. These are all computer refurbishers. Yeah. So I should probably read the headlines before I keep talking. So no, yeah, these they're all do computer refurbishing as well. But yeah, yeah, additional resources for device access are here if you're interested, especially the emergency broadband benefit. We just did our last session on that, but just a reminder that it is a $50 up to $50 a month benefit for internet access for folks that will qualify for that as well. And that funding will not last long. So yes, and Kate is helping me out here. So yeah, if you look at the chat, Kate's putting in there a survey right now. Is TLC is going to be undergoing some planning processes right now. So if you get a chance, please fill out that survey. That'll help us inform who our members are and what your needs are and what your interests are as well. That'll really help us out a lot. So that's a good question, Lamont. If you actually join the TLC listserv, the listserv is actually open for people to email directly to. So if you join that, you can email the whole group and respond back that way and share your information that way. That's one thing I would encourage you to do. So if you are not part of that, you can go to tlcphilly.org and sign up for our membership list there, and which is just a Google group at the moment. So yeah, any other questions for the group here? One thing I will mention also, there is a national effort for this already through the Christina Foundation, working with NDIA, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, as well. So if you go to Christina.org, I believe it is, ChristinaFoundation.org, they actually have a whole request site that you can request computers as an organization, or you can say that you have computers as well to them too. Yeah. Thank you, Jasmine. Yep, this is so great. Yeah. So I hope that we answered all your questions and that you kind of have an understanding of everything that's going on right now in the computer distribution world here. Kate, are we missing anything? Anything we need to follow up with?
I think that is everything, or maybe we should return to, I know Stephen had a question earlier about the operating system that folks could expect to receive if they receive a donated computer. So maybe Jonathan or the Nerdit folks, if you want to speak to that for your programs.
Yeah, so for right now, the most of ours are through the Microsoft refurbishment program. So Windows 10 is what we're focusing on.
Here, primarily, most of them are Windows 10.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sense.
Hopefully this was helpful to everyone. There are a ton of resources and links here. We will be sending out the slide deck after the webinar, so you'll be able to click through and visit all those different websites and resources. Oh, we do have one more question here. Any organized distribution of Cloud Ready, which is a Chromebook clone?
I don't think we've gotten to that level, Stephen, yet. So no, not at the moment. We've been doing Chromebooks, refurbished Chromebooks in general. That's close as we've gotten to that. Yeah, but yeah, that is a great point. I mean, and I think that's one thing for one thing I enjoy about Chromebook, but it also comes with a learning curve as well, is that there's so many, there's a literacy curve around learning Google Docs is out there. And Google's actually been doing some great work around that, providing funds for some of that training. But that is something, as digital literacy providers, that's something that I know many people are working towards, but I think it's a bigger effort we need to make is around how to use things like Google Docs and cloud tools like that too. So absolutely. Yep. So again, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And please stay tuned to our emails that are coming out, as we will be doing some more planning over the summer, and we'll hope to resume these webinars back in September as well. So please, if you can, fill out the survey that Kate provided, and also keep an eye out for other additional emails as well. Thank you so much for everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you all later. Thank you.